What's good, YouTube? I gotta make sure I'm looking at the road while I'm driving. Okay, so today we have a fun one today. Similar to the last video that we did, it's gonna be a bit more of a kind of behind the scenes back workout. We got a couple boys training there. One of my clients, Ethan, is also at the gym today, so we're gonna be taking him through a back day. Fortunately to him, my back day is pretty similar right now. So it's not a whole lot of like bent over rows, but in general, it's largely lat focused and kind of upper back focused, but it's pretty well-rounded back day. So should be a good one to take everybody through. I'm not going to go too crazy with the anatomical explanations of everything, because I don't think that's why people are here. But at least I can break down why we're doing what we're doing, and the whole kind of reason behind that, and the adequate volume and kind of intensity that you want to see here. So I think that's mostly what we're going to cover today. It's going to be a good time. Stay tuned, and we'll show you more when we're there. We have arrived at the gym. It's empty in here today, so we actually picked like the perfect day to film. I got Ethan here with me. Ethan's one of my newer athletes. He just signed up. We're just gonna go through my basic back day and what I run. A lot of this is more focused on the lats, but we do also have some upper back and some mid back work in there too. In regards to back training, I'll get you to look that way. We have a couple different groups we want to target. The lats are going to be the big ones, of course, that fall kind of underneath the armpit area. They tie all the way from the shoulder down into the hip. So these are big ones we like to focus on. Of course, we have the traps, the upper and the lower traps as well. We have the rhomboids here. In general, for a lot of lat-focused training, we're going to have things a bit more along this tight arm path that we have here. So you're going to have your dumbbell rows, you're going to have your neutral arm pull downs, and anything that kind of finishes along that tight arm path into the hip. Along with that, if we're trying to target more of the upper back, the rear delts, the teres, we have the teres that kind of sits right on top of the lat here, teres major. We're going to have the elbow kind of coming out and finishing up more around this area. We're going to get a lot more of this kind of area of the back done. Aside from that, if we want to get a little bit more towards the middle of the back, we're gonna have those elbows finishing usually somewhere around that 45-degree plane, and then finishing all the way back so we can shorten those rhomboids all the way. That is basically back training in a nutshell. I always like to kind of start with an execution-based style of programming first. So let's start with the basics and let's work up from there. A lot of trainers will just throw volume at people and just hope that it works, but if they're unable to do a single dumbbell row properly, then none of that volume is going to be able to actually take an effect in building their physique that they want, the way they want it. We're going to jump into a few different movements. The first one we're going to open up with is kind of just a warm-up movement, so straight arm pull down. It's a pretty popular movement, but it's one that a lot of people do butcher, so we'll talk a little bit about that when we get going. I don't know why I have straps on. I definitely don't need straps for this, and I couldn't even use them because we have the prime handles here. So this is an attachment that I like using with some of my athletes. For one, it's a little bit more close grip, so you're going to stay along that tight arm path. I'm not necessarily trying to have the elbows finishing too far behind the body here. I'm really just trying to warm up the lats and engage the lats, pre-activate them before I head into the bigger, heavier movement. With this, we have to remember we have constant tension from the cable pulling us up. So I want to hinge back, and I want to make sure that I'm in line with the tension of the cable. So trying to train my lats through this range, I want to be a bit further back from the cable, okay? So I'm not trying to be right here. I want to make sure to load the stretch. Now when I'm in this position, a big mistake a lot of people make is they go directly overhead and let their shoulders elevate. So I'm trying to keep my shoulders down, and I'm trying to keep my arm almost swooping down in front to stretch my lat at the very top end. As soon as if I go too far, I'm gonna feel my shoulders elevate and tension's gonna come off my lat as soon as that shoulder girdle kind of pops up. So what we're trying to do is basically get in that stretch point, find that end range, and we're gonna follow that tight arm path down to the hips and almost depress a little bit when we come down. So once again, my shoulders aren't elevating, just keeping myself nice and tight within that midline. You notice as well, I'm putting just a little bit more weight on the pinky side of my hand. I'm trying to keep the crook of my elbow externally rotated. And that's just a small, subtle cue that I'm trying to use to keep my lats initiating movement. I find when a lot of people, and this you'll hear it definitely from different people, yes, the lat is an internal rotator, but it also depresses the scapula, and I want to finish the movement with some depression. So if I'm coming through extremely internally rotated here, you can see my shoulders are all hiked up and out of position. I'm losing tension on my lat right away. So I want to externally rotate slightly just to stay within that tight arm path, down to the hips, and hold for just a half a count when they're down there. So one thing to keep in mind with this movement too, when you start getting to that failure point, the resistance curve, which is basically just a dummy's way of saying where is the weight the heaviest through the movement, you're going to start feeling around that middle range. So if you catch yourself doing perfect reps, you get to a point where you get to that middle range, and then say the next rep after that, you're somehow able to get past it, you probably lost tension on the muscle. If the muscle's failing here, you'd have to get out of position to move it down, right? So you should be failing around that mid-range. You can see I was getting partial, still trying to come down. I hit that wall right there. That's fine. I'm still gonna get the most that I can out of it, right? And I think with back training, that's a lot of things that people miss. They look at it as cheat reps. What am I cheating? I'm just getting more out of the movement. That's all, right? Good, good. You got 2 more like that at least. Okay, all the way down. Come on. Yep, yep. Good. 1 more like that. Come on. Finish. Perfect. Beautiful. Good set. Nice job, bro. I think next we're actually just going to do something that I don't usually throw in my back days, but recently I've been throwing them a bit. It's just a conventional pull down. So I lied. We're not going to do a conventional pull down. I'd actually rather go with a single arm pull down. It's going to target the iliac fibers of the lat, so a little bit more lower lat, which is an area that a lot of people are lacking from a bodybuilding standpoint. But on top of that, it's one of those movements that's one, going to isolate the lats really well because not a lot of other things can get involved when we do certain things right. I'll talk about that when we start. One of the big things here would be making sure you're lining up basically your hip or your elbow with the line of force from the cable. So if this cable doesn't swivel out, as you can see, the wheel's kind of just stuck near the top. It doesn't change angle. I want to have to change my body angle in order to line up with that cable. So I'm actually coming over a little bit on this bench. I'm going to bring this hip back just a little bit. I'm going to use this bench to brace. So you see a lot of people doing this from a kneeling stance. The one issue with that is that when you get to the point near failure, you need a little bit of external stability to help hold on and finish that last little bit of rep. If we don't have anything to brace against, we're not going to be provide the same amount of power that we want to take the muscle to true failure. Same with the straight arm pull downs. We don't want to go into full extension at the top. So I'm still trying to keep tension on my lat. This shoulder's depressed. This elbow's, it can be slightly supinated or neutral, whatever's comfortable for you. Really, it's going to be wherever you target your lat the best, and wherever you feel that the best. Driving that elbow down to the hip. Right about there is about as far as I want to come up. And I'm right down to that hip again. When I come down into that bottom portion, there's not a lot of movements where I can really squeeze that lower lat down there. So I'm going to spend a bit more time in that contraction. Good, 2 from here. Okay. Good, you. 1 more. Attaboy. Okay, so that's something to talk about too, is especially on movements like this, is usually once again you're gonna fail in that mid-range, right? Now, if you have a spotter, they can help you a lot just to get that last little bit out of it. It doesn't mean they need to spot it on the eccentric though, on the way up, right? Everybody's stronger on the eccentric than the concentric. So in this portion, in this movement, it would be on the way up than on the way down, right? We're gonna fail down here, but he can still take it on the way up. So let him take what he can get out of it, but spot him where he needs the help is a big thing. We're gonna move into a chest supported row next. A couple different variations we can do. Probably just gonna use a bench and some dumbbells today. When doing chest supported rows with a bench, especially like this, we have to pick the shittiest looking bench there is because it's the most narrow one. But the big premise behind that is that it'll actually allow the dumbbells to travel outside of the bench. If you have one of these ones, the really nice Rogue ones, they're great to press off of. It's a wider platform, but in doing that, the dumbbell's gonna bump into the bench a lot. You're not gonna be able to get that elbow behind the body. It's gonna be a pain in the ass. You're gonna get really frustrated and you're gonna go to move on to a different exercise without doing a chest supported row. I want my sternum to be the main point of contact. It's not necessarily a chest supported row. If there's a chest supported row, I'd probably be more right here. I wanna almost be sternum into the pad so that my upper back can round over the bench a bit. So I wanna load the length and range here, and that's the big benefit here. Right where I have it, just one hole up, is just outside of my range. If I was to grab dumbbells, I'd have to reach over and grab them. I don't want to cheat that range of motion at the end. From here, I'm just driving my sternum into the pad. You can take whatever elbow angle you want. Once again, if you want more upper back, we're gonna go a bit more overhand, around 90 degrees. If you want more kind of mid-rhomboid area and just overall back, you'll be more around a 45, right? So I'm gonna fall somewhere within that 90 to 45 range, and I'm gonna be driving my elbows back, trying to get them as far as I can back behind the body, and then controlling it on the way back down. Good, good. Yep, lead with those elbows, stick your chest out. There we go, good. Every rep like that. Good, get as much range as you can up here. Round it out and then flex it all the way back. Good. Nice, keep coming. Come on. Fuck. Oh. I know, it's okay, we're running with it. Use that as the thumbnail. I feel like a duck or something. Like I'm wearing like one of those goofy hats at Disney World or something. So far we've done like a lower impact movement for the lats to warm them up. We did a pretty strong movement for the lats of a vertical pull. We did a chest supported row, hitting a bit more upper back. We're gonna move back towards the lats, and we're gonna do a lat focused row. A couple different ways you can do this. We're gonna do one that biases the stretch a little bit more, kind of loads that length and range, because once again, with the movement we just did, single arm pull downs, we did a lot of shortened range. So trying to cover every end of the muscle and trying to have a focus for where we're gonna be strong through each part of it. So what I'm gonna do here, my main focus, once again, keeping that tight arm path into the body. So I'm off racking. Whatever side I'm pulling with, that foot's gonna go up to help lock my hip into place. I'm deep pressing and I'm slightly rotating towards the side that I'm pulling from. Once I'm locked in here, I'm bracing with my other hand into the pad, just like I'm doing a dumbbell row, and then I'm pulling right into that hip pocket. Big thing here, I don't want that shoulder, once again, elevating. As soon as that shoulder elevates, I'm gonna get a bit more rear delt in there. I'm basically just gonna lose tension on that lat. Nice. So don't let this weight pull you back in. Push against it as it pulls you back. Yeah, there we go. Now we're loading the stretch. You should feel this almost like it's ripping off your rib cage, right? Yeah, good. Good, one, control, all you. Come on, come on. Attaboy, nice job. Good set. Good execution, man, nice job. Seated row variation here. We're using the conventional D-grip handles. Now you may be wondering, why aren't we using these prime handles? Because they're all pretty and they swivel. One of the issues with that, and especially training with some strong fellas here, is that we're gonna have issues with loading in general. I can't use my straps on this, and that's one limiting factor of these. They may feel a little bit better from a proprioception perspective of being able to feel the muscle. However, if loading is a limiting factor and I can load another 50 pounds heavier just by using straps and using the D handles, it makes more sense to use the D handles, and it doesn't make sense to use these. For trying to target rhomboids and like mid to lower traps area, we want that elbow coming behind the body pretty much as far as it can, and a little bit of rounding as well on the other end. So what can I do? It's gonna have my elbows finish like this. Probably have attachments that'll put me in that position, right? So always kind of think anatomically speaking from the ground up. Okay, I'm trying to train this muscle, I feel it here. What can get me in that position? It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. Okay, so I have this set up just about shoulder width, just slightly outside of shoulder width. Once again, I'm gonna start a little bit more overhand on the stretch. So I'm setting myself up, just slightly bent knees. Now, upper back focus, I wanna keep a slight lean back, so I don't wanna be letting this cable pull me in. I'm gonna keep that slight lean back pretty much the whole way through. I'm gonna drive those elbows back, squeeze my shoulder blades behind my body. Hands are hooks and arms are ropes. I'm not actively engaging here, I'm not trying to curl. These are just, my hands are hooking on, and my arms are ropes that are being pulled by a lever back, right? Yep, so I was overhand to start, and then I rotate to neutral as I come back. Yeah, good. Keep that slightly back, big chest when you pull back. You go back to squeeze. Yeah, good. Lead those elbows, you can get them further back. There we go, keep coming. 2, attaboy. Flare these out a bit, let them come up high, let them come up higher. Good, there we go. Yep, right here, good. Jam those elbows behind the body, nice and hard. There we go, good, ever up like that, okay? That was perfect, best one yet. There we go, good. Good execution, man, let's go, keep coming. I don't typically do any kind of bent rows, but we'll do one today just for the sake of the video. And because it's a good movement that the average person should throw in their back day. But I think it is important to use some sort of pull from the hip or some sort of bent row in for most people's back day. With this, notice how we put it near the end of the workout. If I am to do a bent row, that's typically where I would have it. It makes the most sense just in the fact that our back is already fried. This isn't a movement with a lot of stability where we're set up, where we can fully tax and isolate that muscle. So our strength potential is down a lot already. It makes more sense to do this in a sense where we're gonna do it for a higher rep range and just really kind of burn out the back overall as one big unit. And then on top of that as well, we're not catabolizing into our other movements that are a bit more externally stabilized, where we're gonna be able to take the muscle we're trying to target to true failure. So if I was to start with this, it would cannibalize my lat row, it would cannibalize my chest supported row, it would get to the point where I would have a lot lower production on those movements. Now if I prioritize those and then go into a movement like this, where once again we have to stabilize quite a bit. We're not gonna be able to pull as much weight anyways. Then I can just turn this to a little bit more of kind of that metabolic burnout exercise near the end of the back day. Typically for someone that's doing a bent row, I like to use dumbbells, largely for the fact that we can manipulate where our elbows and our hands are gonna finish. I can also keep the weight a little bit closer to me. Yes, I can do a barbell row from here, and the weight's gonna be nice and close to my midline, so it's gonna be a bit easier on my lower back. But with the dumbbell, I'll be able to pull it a bit further behind where the barbell would finish. So it's important to set up for this as if you're doing a Romanian deadlift. So we still wanna lead with the hips back. We still wanna try to maintain that neutral spine as best we can. And we're reaching, we're not letting that elbow hike up too much. We're reaching low and then driving our feet into the ground, starting that pull, using a little bit of momentum, but still making sure to be honest with our back positioning, making sure we're not finishing or starting the movement with a lot of flexion, right? Good, chest up a bit. Yeah, there we go. Pull from there. Nice. When you start that pull, push your feet into the floor. At this point, back is absolutely roasted. So we're gonna move on to some rear delts. Thing is, the rear delts are already responsible for a lot of the movements that we did. They at least initiate a lot of the things that we're doing. And especially the seated row. The elbows are finishing behind, they're definitely active there. So I like to take less of a row approach to the rear delts here. We're gonna do a reverse fly on the pec deck, burn them out, keep it high reps, just kind of touch up the muscle groups that we already touched on. I trained biceps through my chest day, which was yesterday. So I'm not gonna train any biceps with this. Once again, for me specifically, back is a big focal point that I'm trying to work on and isolate as much as I can. So rear delts, of course, tie into this a little bit better than biceps do if I trained biceps yesterday. So we're gonna go smash those.
Do you want the whole stack there?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I find people go a bit too heavy with rear delts to the point where other muscle groups can take over. So we wanna keep that arm relatively straight. We're still pronated, so we're still overhand as we're coming back. A good cue with this is kind of think of almost karate chopping the bar as we're pulling it away. I kind of just let my shoulders move freely. For me, traps is actually a muscle group that I want to work on quite a bit. I need a little bit more of those, so I'm gonna let them take over for a little bit if they need to. But once again, it is mainly a rear delt focused exercise. So we're locked in, our hands are pretty much in line with our shoulders here. You can kind of hover with the chest pad a little bit, whatever's comfortable. And then just coming straight back. Good, yeah, we should feel that tension. Yep, you should feel that tension right away. Good. 2. It's a bit more of a swing. Yeah, just swing with it and keep tension there. Good. Nice.
He's burned like a mother.
I know, they're great. I find like with a lot of rear delt movements, your elbows want to drop. And it's the same with face pulls. You're doing face pulls, they want to start coming down. The biggest cue for that is just keeping them up, keeping them in line, keeping that tension there. It's gonna burn like crazy, but that's what you want.
Keep going.
If you're in the local area, you have to come check out Fitness FX. We got the new location opening January. I'll be working there. Ethan will be working there, of course. A lot of us will be running around, kind of doing our thing. It's going to be the place to be, especially if you're a little bit more serious about what you're doing. If you want to learn a little bit more, we're even going to have posing workshops and everything going on there weekly once competition season starts up in January. And that's going to be something that's as cheap as 20 bucks for a drop-in fee. So if you haven't, follow Nova Scotia Posing, NS Posing on Instagram, and follow me at rkhumble, as well as at FitnessFX to get a little bit more information about all the fun stuff to come in the next year. All right, guys, that's the workout for today. We're pretty fried. How you feeling? Good?
Oh, done.
Yeah. So it's funny. We were like, oh, it's pretty low volume. We'll be here for like an hour and 15 minutes. It's like 2 hours later. And we didn't even do any double takes of the video. So I think that's a good sign that we got into the workout. We got a good amount done. Hopefully you guys learned something from this workout today. Once again, your goals in terms of how you're structuring things are always going to change based off of what you're trying to target. It's important to phase things out like that too. For me, I'm really trying to blow up my back for the next little bit, maybe the next 4 to 6 months. So I think it's an important video for me to not only be able to teach, but to also practice myself. So hopefully you guys can take that and run with it. Like, comment, and subscribe, of course. If you have any ideas for more videos, put them down below, and I'd love to hear about them. We're gonna have guys like Ethan jumping in more often as well. I think next time we're probably gonna smash some legs. I think you guys want to see some hack squats, I think. So we want to see some quad training, so that's what we're gonna give you. So either way, once again, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for tagging along, and stay tuned for the next one.